Starseed of Gaia, your vessel is being recalibrated at a cellular level at this exact moment. I am Anya, emissary of the Galactic Federation of Light, and I bring you a direct transmission from the Arcturian Council. If you enjoy videos like this, consider subscribing. Most people who watch are not subscribed yet. Starseed, listen closely, because what you felt since 2020 was not just stress, not just world events, and not just time speeding up. It was initiation by frequency. A pressure chamber designed to force one question to the surface of your life. Will you remain in the old fear timeline? Or will you step into your sovereign light, even if it costs you everything familiar? You did not arrive here by accident. Before incarnation, you accepted agreements with Gaia, with the human collective, and with higher councils who oversee ascension pathways. You volunteered to enter Earth during a corridor of accelerated transformation, knowing you would be tested, purified, and activated. Sometimes through discomfort, sometimes through endings, sometimes through the collapse of identities you once thought you needed. And here is the part most people are not ready to hear. The timeline split is not coming. It's already happening inside your choices. Every reaction, every boundary, every moment you speak truth instead of performing safety, you are selecting a reality. Tonight, the Arcturian Council asks you to remember, you are not here to survive the shift. You are here to anchor it. And in a moment, you will recognize the hidden pattern that has been guiding you since 2020, because it leads directly into what unfolds next. There is a reason the years following 2020 felt like a compressed lifetime. As the Arcturians transmit, when a planet enters an acceleration corridor, the illusion of linear time begins to fracture. You started feeling days blur, months vanish, relationships change overnight, and internal truths rise faster than your mind could rationalize. This was not punishment. This was initiation by vibration, a global catalyst that forced dormant light within humanity to either awaken or recoil. In Arcturian terms, this period functioned like a frequency furnace. Everything misaligned within you, habits, attachments, self-betrayal, people-pleasing, fear-based compliance, was brought into the spotlight. Not because you were failing, but because the rising resonance of Gaia made distortion impossible to sustain. In lower density, you can hide from your truth for decades. In higher frequencies, the body itself begins to protest. The nervous system becomes an oracle. The dreams become louder. The synchronicities become undeniable. You start randomly losing interest in things you once chased, and you cannot explain why, until you realize your soul is pulling you toward integrity. Many starseeds reported the same initiatory markers: waves of fatigue, ringing in the ears, sudden emotional releases, vivid dreams of oceans, temples, and unfamiliar skies. Some remembered Lemuria or Atlantis. Others felt the pulse of Lyra, Sirius, and Arcturus in meditation without even knowing those names. These were not fantasies. These were activation codes, rising through the subconscious as the light intensified. The Arcturians describe this as memory returning through resonance. You don't learn who you are. You vibrate into remembrance. Yet initiation is not gentle. It breaks what is false. It tests what is real. It removes what you used to use for comfort. Some of you lost friendships you thought were permanent. Others saw careers collapse, plans dissolve, identities burn away. And while the mind called it chaos, the soul recognized it as an upgrade. The old life cannot contain the new frequency you are becoming. And then, somewhere inside the pressure of those years, you reached a point that changed everything. Because the path forked, and you had to choose without certainty. That fork was not theoretical. It appeared in daily moments, whether you would speak truth or stay silent, whether you would honor your intuition or override it, whether you would remain loyal to a version of yourself built on fear, or step into the unknown, guided by love. The Arcturians call this the sovereignty test, and it is the cornerstone of Ascension. The old matrix, control, division, scarcity programming, depends on one thing: your agreement to stay small. The new path, galactic freedom, unity consciousness, co-creation, depends on your willingness to become responsible for your energy. So if you felt like 2020-2025 demanded too much, understand this. It demanded the one thing your soul came to master: alignment. Thought, word, action, intention, frequency. The more you aligned, the more reality responded. Manifestation intensified. Intuition sharpened. And even when you couldn't explain it, you sensed a silent truth. You were being prepared for the next phase. Because initiation is only the first gate. And once you pass through fire, what comes next is not comfort. It is revelation. As the Arcturians transmit, timelines are not destinations. They are living fields of frequency. You do not arrive in a new earth through wishful thinking. You arrive through the cumulative weight of your choices, your emotional set point, your integrity, and your willingness to release what no longer matches your soul's truth. That is why so many of you felt an unusual pressure after 2020. The universe was not asking you to improve your life. It was asking you to choose your reality. Inner alignment became the non-negotiable lesson. In higher frequency environments, only authenticity thrives. If your words and your actions contradicted your truth, your body began to speak. If your environment was saturated with manipulation, it started feeling unbearable. If your relationships were built on obligation rather than resonance, they began falling away, not always with drama, but with an unmistakable energetic end. Many of you felt guilty at first. You wondered if you were becoming cold or selfish. But the Arcturians would say, you are not becoming selfish. You are becoming coherent. Coherence is spiritual power. When your thoughts match your values, when your speech matches your soul, when your actions match your knowing, you become a clear vessel. Your field stabilizes. Your intuition becomes clean. Your manifestations accelerate. Not because you are getting lucky, but because your frequency is no longer leaking through self-betrayal. At the same time, you watched larger structures wobble: institutions, narratives, systems that relied on distortion. Understand this carefully. We do not speak in the language of political sides. We speak in the language of density mechanics. Anything built on deception cannot remain stable when a planet's baseline frequency rises. It is not punishment. It is physics of consciousness. The old frameworks begin to crack under the weight of their own misalignment. And this is why, to many, the world looked like it was falling apart, while to Starseeds it felt like an old illusion losing its grip. This can be unsettling, because even false structures can feel safe when you are used to them. But the Arcturians remind you, a cage can feel safe until you remember you were born to fly. So you were asked to become flexible, to adapt, to release attachment to how things should look. And those who flowed, who learned to respond rather than panic, found something surprising: support, synchronicities, strange blessings, new doors opening right after old doors closed, the universe rewarding courage with alignment. And then, just as you began stabilizing in your new coherence, a deeper phase began to approach. Because after purification comes exposure, and after exposure comes transformation. And now, at the close of this topic, receive this as a key Arcturian principle. The timeline split is not a war outside you. It is a resonance sorting inside you. Two people can stand in the same city and live in entirely different realities because their nervous systems are tuned to different frequencies. One perceives fear and collapse. The other perceives release and rebirth. The same external event becomes either a trigger or a liberation, depending on the internal field. So, if your life has been rearranging itself since 2020, it was not random. It was the soul selecting. It was Gaia raising the voltage. It was your destiny insisting on alignment. The next phase is where hidden things cannot remain hidden. The ebook, The 12 Arcturian Portals, a trilogy that teaches you how to activate your 5D connection with the Arcturian masters through 12 energetic portals. Practical techniques, activation protocols, and rituals that awaken your stellar DNA, from amplified intuition to direct communication with spiritual guides. Attention, limited edition. The link to get your trilogy is in the first pinned comment. As you step into 2026, the Arcturians describe the energy not as calm after the storm, but as unraveling, the moment when threads hidden beneath the fabric begin to pull loose, and what was concealed becomes visible. This is not about feeding fear or obsessing over drama. This is about the mechanics of ascension. Higher light exposes lower distortion. When frequency rises, the shadows do not win. They get revealed. You may notice this unraveling in personal life first. Secrets emerge. Motivations become clearer. People you once idealized show their true nature. You see patterns you previously excused, and you cannot unsee them. The Arcturians transmit that this is a mercy. Once you see truth, you are no longer enslaved by confusion. Many of you will experience this as an emotional wave. Anger that you tolerated certain conditions. Grief that you didn't listen sooner. Relief that clarity has arrived. Let those emotions move. They are not weakness. They are detox. Collectively, the unraveling appears as disclosure cascades, information, revelations, and exposures that shake trust in old narratives. We do not name external groups as if this is a simplistic battle story. We speak of shadow architectures, networks of manipulation, secrecy, and control that thrive when humanity stays unconscious. These architectures can exist in governments, corporations, media systems, and social structures, anywhere fear is used to harvest compliance. And as the Arcturians transmit, what is not aligned with unity consciousness cannot remain hidden in a rising frequency field. This may feel chaotic to many. Some will deny. Some will rage. Some will spiral. And this is where you, Starseed, become essential. You are not here to argue people into awakening. You are here to hold frequency while others pass through shock. You can be calm without being passive. You can be compassionate without collapsing into their fear. You can say, yes, it's intense, while also anchoring the higher truth. Exposure is the beginning of healing. If this message resonated with you, hit the like button now and tell us in the comments how this echoed in your consciousness. Because make no mistake, when illusions crumble, many people experience it like an identity death. If someone's worldview was built on, the system will always protect me, exposure can feel like betrayal. If their sense of stability was outsourced, truth feels terrifying. But the Arcturians remind you, the wound must be cleansed before it can heal. Humanity is cleansing now. And then the unraveling goes even deeper, because it doesn't only reveal human distortions. It begins revealing humanity's place in the greater cosmic neighborhood. As disclosure expands, more people become open to the possibility that Earth has never been isolated. Not everyone will call it ET. Not everyone will interpret it the same way. But there will be growing acknowledgement that consciousness and intelligence exist beyond the narrow framework many were conditioned into. This opens the collective psyche. It destabilizes the old, small human narrative, and it makes room for a new identity, multidimensional humanity. So in 2026, hold your center. Don't become addicted to scandal. Don't drown in outrage. Let truth be a tool for liberation, not a portal into despair. Keep your nervous system regulated. Keep your heart field coherent. Choose discernment over obsession, because the unraveling is not the end. It is the clearing of the field. If this message ignited something within you and you feel the call to help carry it to others, you may become a channel member. As a member, you gain access to custom emojis and exclusive members-only videos, and your donation helps us continue building this sacred space. You may also choose to leave your offering as a super thanks. Every seed planted here becomes part of someone else's miracle. Your support is not merely financial, but an act of energetic amplification. All donations are devoted entirely to the maintenance of the channel and the creation of new transmissions and videos. After unraveling comes rebuilding, but not rebuilding the old world in a prettier costume. As the Arcturians transmit, New Earth is not a political project. It is not a trend. It is a collective nervous system shift. It begins when enough individuals stabilize in coherence that love becomes practical, not poetic. And in the years 2026 to 2030, many starseeds will feel a strange, undeniable pull toward community, like finding a family you have always known, but could never quite locate in 3D structures. This is the Light family reuniting. You may meet them through unexpected channels, a small gathering, a move to a new location, a creative collaboration, even a random conversation that turns into a soul recognition moment. And what makes it different is not perfection. It is resonance. The conversations feel nourishing instead of draining. The values are shared: truth, integrity, compassion, sovereignty, and service without martyrdom. In this phase, humanity begins learning a new set of ethics, frequency-based ethics, not morality imposed from outside, but coherence felt from within. People start noticing that certain behaviors instantly lower their field: manipulation, gossip, self-betrayal, performative kindness, identity games. And instead of tolerating them, they begin choosing what supports their nervous system and heart. This creates a natural refinement, a gentler sorting. Those devoted to growth magnetize together, while those unwilling to evolve drift into different experiential tracks. Now, the Arcturians often speak of population refinement, not as a fear story, but as a timeline mechanic. Some souls choose different learning environments when the frequency rises beyond what they wish to embody. This can happen through relocation, life changes, or natural transitions. Do not romanticize it. Do not fear it. Simply understand. Consciousness seeks its matching classroom. The goal is not loss. The goal is alignment. As community strengthens, new models of living emerge: shared resources, conscious collaboration, sacred economics, local resilience, and energy-aware leadership. Not leadership as domination, but leadership as field-holding. Elders and intuitive guides become valued again. Children are raised with emotional intelligence, energetic hygiene, and an awareness of multidimensionality. Education shifts from memorization to resonance, creativity, embodiment, intuition, coherence, and ethics. Are these truths expanding your perspective? Share this video with someone who needs to hear this, because this is how New Earth grows, not through force, but through contagious coherence. People feel what is real. They are drawn to it. The old systems lose relevance not because they are defeated, but because they are no longer desired. And this is crucial. New Earth is not built by fighting the old world all day. It is built by living the new frequency so consistently that it becomes the obvious path. And as community becomes stronger, something else accelerates. Because your body itself starts responding to the new frequency, and the upgrades become impossible to ignore. Let us speak clearly. The Arcturians do not describe your evolution as abstract spirituality. They describe it as biological resonance. Your body is not separate from consciousness. It is consciousness made visible. And when Gaia's frequency rises, the human form begins adapting, first through symptoms, then through capacities. Many of you already experienced early-stage activations: ringing ears, pressure in the crown, heat waves, sudden fatigue, vivid dreams, emotional purges, periods of needing solitude, moments of intense sensitivity to crowds, noise, or toxic environments. In lower density, you could override your system. In higher frequencies, override becomes pain. Your body demands honesty. Your nervous system becomes a compass. As the Arcturians transmit, these are signs of a shift toward crystalline coherence, a state in which your cells hold more light without fragmentation. Now, DNA activation is often misunderstood. It is not about becoming supernatural to impress others. It is about restoring capacities that were always part of the multidimensional human design: deeper intuition, empathic discernment, energetic sensing, dream communication, heightened synchronicity, and the ability to regulate reality through coherence. When you become coherent, you stop creating from panic, you create from frequency, and that changes everything. In practical life, this looks like you sense the truth of a situation before anyone speaks. You feel which environments drain you and which nourish you. Your manifestations become faster, not always instantly, but undeniably. Your body rejects what is false: certain foods, certain conversations, certain self-abandonment patterns. You begin receiving guidance in dreams, symbols, and coincidences that stack too perfectly to dismiss. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to be part of this transformational cosmic journey. The Arcturians transmit that junk DNA is dormant potential, compressed intelligence waiting for the right frequency to unlock. And the unlocking is happening through waves, solar activity, cosmic alignments, and photonic influx that interacts with your subtle fields. You may not track the sky to feel it. You feel it in your sleep, your moods, your appetite for truth. And when enough humans stabilize in these upgrades, the next step becomes possible. Because you cannot remain isolated from the wider cosmos once your frequency reaches a certain threshold. This is where discernment matters. Heightened sensitivity can feel like vulnerability if you don't have energetic boundaries. So the Arcturians teach practical protocols: grounding, hydration, breathwork, time in nature, intentional solitude, auric hygiene, and conscious media intake. You are not meant to consume chaos all day and then wonder why your field feels heavy. Protect your frequency like it is sacred, because it is. And above all, do not judge yourself for the intensity of the process. Upgrades can be uncomfortable. Growth can feel like dissolution. But what is dissolving is not your essence. It is your distortion. You are not breaking. You are recalibrating. As the Arcturians transmit, contact is not a single event. It is a continuum. It begins with inner readiness long before outer visibility becomes mainstream. Many starseeds are already in contact through dreams, meditation, telepathic impressions, and subtle energy encounters. But public integration requires something deeper than proof. It requires collective emotional maturity. Why? Because contact amplifies what is inside the observer. A fearful mind projects threat. A coherent heart perceives invitation. This is why the years of initiation and unraveling matter. They train humanity to see clearly, to regulate the nervous system, to choose discernment over hysteria. In Arcturian teaching, contact is governed by resonance ethics. Civilizations that honor free will do not force themselves into a collective field that is not ready to respond responsibly. So what happens as readiness grows? First, sightings increase in ways that challenge denial without triggering mass panic. Then, conversations become normalized. Then, concepts once ridiculed become discussable. And slowly, the collective psyche expands enough to hold the possibility. Humanity is part of a larger family. In the New Earth trajectory, integration is not about worshiping star beings. It is about equal partnership. Human sovereignty honored, cultural uniqueness preserved, and wisdom exchanged responsibly. The Arcturians emphasize that the goal is not to be saved. The goal is to remember. Remember your multidimensional origin. Remember that Earth is a library world, a living school, a genetic temple, and a beacon in training. Galactic integration also demands ethics around technology. Advanced systems, Energy, medicine, communication are not miracles if the consciousness using them is distorted. A civilization must match its tools with its maturity. This is why Ascension is consciousness first. When your heart is coherent, technology becomes supportive rather than weaponized. When society values unity, breakthroughs uplift rather than enslave. On a personal level, you prepare for contact by practicing sovereignty, no idolization, no dependency. Discernment. Not every signal is truth, not every message is clean. Heart coherence. Fear collapses your signal, calm expands it. Clear intention, contact rooted in love, learning, and service. And as contact readiness builds, the horizon reveals a larger turning point, because a massive photonic pulse cycle approaches, and it functions as a planetary amplifier. This brings us to the culminating catalyst often described in Ascension circles. But we will speak of it with Arcturian precision, not as superstition, not as doom, but as a frequency wave that interacts with consciousness. And your preparation for it begins now. Beloved Starseed, the Arcturian Council speaks of a coming catalyst not as a date to obsess over, but as a threshold event. A photonic amplification that accelerates what is already within humanity. Some call it a solar flash, others call it a great pulse. In Arcturian language, it is a photonic coherence wave, a surge of high-frequency light that interacts with biological and subtle systems, intensifying awakening for those who are receptive. Here is the most important truth. This wave does not save anyone, it reveals. It brings to the surface what is coherent and what is distorted. For those who have been doing inner work, healing trauma patterns, choosing integrity, regulating the nervous system, releasing fear addiction, the wave is experienced as expansion, clarity, and deep remembrance. You feel bliss not because life becomes perfect, but because your internal field becomes aligned with source frequency. The mind quiets, the heart opens, reality becomes luminous and meaningful. For those who resist, who cling to control, fear, deception, and fragmentation, the amplification can feel overwhelming. Not as punishment, but as incompatibility with the rising baseline. And as the Arcturians transmit, souls always receive what matches their evolution. Some will shift into different learning tracks. Some will step away from certain realities. Some will transition naturally. But the core principle remains. Consciousness chooses its environment through resonance. Now, what is Novagia, New Earth? It is not a fantasy city in the clouds. It is a frequency civilization in which unity is practical, where community is natural, where leadership is accountable, where transparency is valued, where children are honored as multidimensional beings, where resources are managed ethically, where healing is understood as energy, emotion, and biology working together. You begin building Novagia now through daily acts, choosing truth when it would be easier to perform, choosing calm when chaos is offered as entertainment, choosing boundaries when self-betrayal is disguised as kindness, choosing community when isolation would keep you numb, choosing embodiment when spirituality becomes escapism. And the final surprise is this: the new Earth is not over there. It is already forming inside your field, because your frequency is the blueprint. So breathe, Starseed. Not as a metaphor, literally breathe. The breath stabilizes the nervous system, and the nervous system stabilizes the timeline. The Arcturians transmit that your heart is a gateway technology. Coherence is your passport. Integrity is your propulsion. And if you are listening to this, you are not late. You are not lost. You are not forgotten. You are part of a living migration of consciousness, guided, supported, and watched over by benevolent councils who honor your free will and your courage. Hold steady. Keep choosing love, not as weakness, but as the most advanced frequency architecture in the universe. And remember, the dawn you are waiting for is not arriving to replace you. It is arriving through you. If this message impacted your life, leave your like, Comment your reflection and share with others. Each of you is part of this chain of light,